My name is Ritish. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zluri. So, based on the data that I have, I understand that most of you are in the early stage, 0 to 1 million sort of a journey. So, what I thought was to share some of my learnings and the mistakes that I made and what you could potentially avoid, learn from. So, a lot of this gyan will be available on the internet as well. So, I'll try to keep it as minimal as possible and talk more about some of the experiences that we had in building this journey so far. So, with that, let me get started. A quick introduction to what we do. You see us as a SaaS management platform, but we are an identity security platform. That's a different story. But we started our journey in October 2020, right in the midst of the pandemic. So we were building an edtech platform before that. Spent close to 8 years doing that. We were building business simulators for corporate learning. Used to work with the majority of the Fortune 500 companies. And we were based in Singapore, so all three founders were building that, right? And this was in the midst of the pandemic. No one was using simulation programs. There were no training programs that were happening. People are not meeting, and our products were used in classroom programs. So we had a lot of applications that were being used within our organization. There was a lot of spend that was happening, but we had no great visibility into the technology stacks that we are using. So that's when we started speaking to various people and realized, hey, there's a problem not just with us, but every company. There is so much of IT that is being used. There is so much of shadow IT that exists that IT teams are not aware of. How can we bring in visibility? So we looked into every tooling out there in the market, did POCs, and realized that, hey, none of these tools are solving a problem for a 250 employee company like ours. And a lot of these large companies were struggling as well. That's when we said maybe there is value in building a discovery engine which helps you get visibility into technology stacks. So that's how we started our journey in October 2020 with the simple idea that, hey, let's bring in visibility into technology stacks, right? So all three co-founders, we were a couple of us were based in Singapore. One of co-founder was based in Bangalore. We took Vande Bharat flights, came back to India and started building Zluri. So initial 8-9 months, our core focus was on building this data fabric, which gives you this complete visibility into technology stacks. So that's what we did, and we filed for 12 patents. 8 patents have been granted in the US. We are building the core IP, right? So, and once we started building it, once we started exposing it to customers, that's when we realized that there are use cases on top of it that we can develop in terms of managing identities, managing applications, governing applications, and this whole space called SaaS management, identity governance, identity security. It's a process of discovery for us. So that's what we did. So it has been close to 4 years. This month exactly will be completing 4 years. Today, as on date, we have raised $32 million of capital so far. Some of the backers, India Partners, Lightspeed, Kalari Capital, these are some of the backers. So, but one thing which we are really proud of today is the fact that very recently, a couple of months back, we've been recognized as a market leader by Gartner on their Magic Quadrant, one of the very few Indian companies to be part of that list. And we've also been recognized by Forester as a leader, and we've been placed between Palo Alto Networks and Zscaler. So that's the kind of evolution that we had from coming from a non-security background to becoming a leader in some of these security-related categories. That's the journey that we have had so far. We work with 200 customers globally, predominantly focus on mid-market in the US. So that's been the journey so far. So with that, I'll just get started with some of the learnings that we had, not too much on the slides. But when we started our journey, right, so I think one thing which we really learned was when we were building this data fabric, we were actually thinking, hey, fantastic fabric, finance will be able to save their costs, IT will be able to get into technology stacks, security will be able to look into compliance. We had solution for every persona, right? So over the journey, one thing which we realized is, hey, you will build product for no one, right? As you go up market, a mid-market or an enterprise customer, so the problem need to be solved very deep. The moat that any product company can build is in fractals. You take any category, you take any product today, every product will look the same. There is no differentiation. When you actually deploy it in customer environments, in mid-market enterprise customers, So that's when there are very, very specific use cases. It could be just showing a data in a certain format, right? That will be very different for a healthcare company versus fintech companies. You want to go deeper into healthcare, you need to show it in that format. That's the moat for you. So you could go after some of your largest competitors in that particular segment if you understand the moats, right? So always go deeper into a persona, understand the jobs to be done. So if you are going after a finance person, you need to know in and out of what he does. You need to know finance better than, if not equal to, this particular persona. So go deep into the persona, understand the jobs to be done, understand what do they do on a day-to-day basis, challenges that they face. So if you don't understand the persona, don't build a product. As simple as it, right? And be very, very focused on the persona. So one of the, when we started our journey in October 2020, there were quite a few companies that we have seen come along with us, right? And we have seen a lot of companies didn't make it. Some of them have made it to a certain journey. Some of them have scaled more than us as well. So when we start putting these cohorts into different buckets, one thing which we realize is the guys who have really succeeded are the ones who have been very, very focused on a particular persona, very, very focused on a particular ICP, and going deep after them. So if you are building for multiple personas, a same product, then it's very difficult to scale. Each persona has a very different problem. Each persona has very different needs in terms of what they want as an outcome. It could be a very simple report that they want, and it's different for each persona. See, be very, very focused on the ICP persona and go deeper into the jobs to be done. The next one is the value, right? So a lot of times, again, early stage companies, what I've seen is there is value in the product that you are delivering, but all of us here, at least in this room, I believe, are building SaaS companies, right? So what you need by the virtue of SaaS is that value has to be delivered continuously, right? Are you able to deliver that value? So early stage, a lot of companies don't think about it. But 2 years, 3 years into your journey, you'll start seeing the repeat or sustainable value not getting delivered to customer, resulting in churning a lot of your customers. Right? Is the value prop that you are creating, can you deliver it in a sustainable manner? Say for example, you are into cost optimization. So you can take $10 to $9 first year. You can't take it to zero, right? So the value prop that you are delivering declines. So what do? What is the value that you deliver to customer? You are saving time on each and every transaction. So with people scaling, with processes scaling, you'll be able to continuously deliver that value. So whatever product that you are building, whatever value that you are creating, ensure that you are able to deliver the value in a sustainable, scalable manner that can be measured. So have a framework of reference for communicating ROI. Right? So that's on the ideating stage when you're ideating, thinking about the problem statement that you want to solve, thinking about the product that you are building. So these are some of the key pieces that I want you to be mindful about. So the next one is the validating phase, right? So most of us here, I'm sure you would have very lean teams. I was speaking to a couple of folks, you are 2 people, 3 people teams. So all of you are targeting US or some of these larger markets. So we were in a similar phase. We were 3 of us. So we always wanted to scale in the US, right? So, but the market is so large, you just put in your technographic profile, say someone using XYZ tool, someone with this designation, someone in this market, you get hundreds of thousands of profiles, right? So how do you target? With 2 people, 3 people, 4 people teams, how do you be more focused, right? So what is that niche that you want to go after? Be very clear with that, right? For example, in our case, one thing which we did in hindsight, I think we thought was very good move was we started searching for the category SaaS management. Where are people searching for these keywords, right? The first country that came was US. Second country that came was UK. Third country that came was Israel. We were like, Israel is such a small market. There are so many people searching for it. And one of my co-founders, he visited Israel before. He told me it's like HSR layout. You walk out, every company is out there, right? You don't need to travel much. Walk in the lane, you will meet 50 companies. That's how densely the region is and how densely the companies are populated in one single location. We said, fantastic, we are 3 people, 50 companies right in front of us, or 100 companies right in front of us. Let's reach out to them because they are searching, there is some intent, right? Initial 10 customers that we had were from Israel. We didn't go to any other market. The great part for us was all these names had great credibility in the US as well. Monday.com, Tipalti, AppsFlyer. Pick up any of these companies, I think they have great credibility outside of India. They were recognized outside of India. So that worked pretty well for us, right? So I think whenever you are going in for your initial customer base, I think going after certain niche segment or certain narrow segment, I think that's easier to crack than going after a very large segment. And this is something which I see very common mistake that most of the early stage companies making. You look at 30,000, 40,000 LinkedIn profiles and then you start reaching out, but the needle doesn't move, right? One, there has to be an intent. Number two, you need to have very narrow segment that you can go after. So that's one of my recommendations. I'm sure there are other ways to solve for this problem as well, but that's something that we have learned in the process. And again, limited channels and go very, very deep, right? What I mean by that is you have email, you have phone calling, you have LinkedIn. There are so many tools. There is no dearth of tools. Every 3 months, people keep talking about new tools coming in the market, right? But pick up a channel that really you focus on and go deeper. And again, what worked for us early on is the intent channels, right? So you need to know who's in the market buying in the category that you're operating. I'm sure for most of us here, the product that you are building, there is an incumbent out there in the market. It could be someone who has built an age-old stack 10 years back, or there is someone new age player as well who has come into the market, who's really doing well in the market. So when you identify these players, so they are obviously, they belong to certain category. It could be a CRM, it could be a chatbot, it could be a security product. So they belong to certain category. So now once you identify that, you know that there are players or companies who are evaluating products in that category. This is the intent data. I'm sure Praveen will be able to educate you on this very well, but there is this intent data that you have on G2, on Gartner, depending on whether you are focusing on mid-market or enterprise or whatever segment, there are different platforms that are available out there, right? So go after folks who are in the market to purchase your tool. Not your tool, but the category that you belong to. Right? If there are 100 companies that are looking at your category, for all of them, the category leader will not be able to serve the right product. Because you are a new age player or you are building right now, you are more adaptable to some of these folks for their specific requirements. So the chances of you converting some of these prospects, not into a customer, but even for a conversation, who can give you insights and tell you, hey, this is a problem that I'm facing that, say, HubSpot is not helping me with, Salesforce is not helping me with, but I want this to be solved. That's why I'm speaking with you, right? If not a customer, you will get these insights and they will help you shape your product in the right direction. So people need to have a problem for them to articulate it really well for you, right? Unless you get that articulation, you speak with the ICP, go around, so they won't be able to give you the insights. So these are the real conversations which will give you those insights that you can act upon. So pick up those intent signals. People who are in the market looking out for the solution. Speak with as many as possible, reach out to them. And they are the ones who will be ready to give a conversation more than anyone else. Because they are in the market, they want to solve the problem. That's part of their KPI. And they're incentivized for meeting their KPIs. Right? So go after them. The next one is on the value capture and value communication. So this is extremely important. A lot of times, I think by DNA, most of us are very humble in nature. We don't really talk about it. If you look at most of the companies in US. So for very minimal value, there is a lot of communication that happens. Have a framework for value capture. How are you going to deliver value to the customer? For the ICP that who's engaging with you, they have their job to be done. They have their KPIs. They have variable pays in their KPIs. So if they meet their KPIs, they'll get their variable, right? And you are building a product to help them meet their KPIs. So how do you deliver value? So if you have clearly understood the ICP, if you have clearly understood the jobs to be done, you are in a better position to articulate this value communication. What is the value prop that you will be able to deliver to customer? So have those ROI calculators. Put it together, right? So as your product evolves, this will keep evolving. You know that your product is delivering value. A lot of times we create a beautiful product. There are certain problem statement that it solves, but that doesn't scale with your product. So beyond a point of time, some of those features will become very redundant, not really useful. And it's not aligned with the value prop, value communication that you want to do. So then you'll get stuck, right? Always have that value. What is the value that my product is delivering? Be very clear with that. So have a way to communicate, represent that, so that at any point of time as you are going through this journey, as you make your pivots, as you make your changes, the persona can change, the value prop can change, but you always have a frame of reference in terms of what is the value I'm going to deliver to the customer. So then once, again, the representation that I wanted to bring in, I don't know if it's communicating or not, but every phase of your journey, it's very different. What you need to do from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, every phase is different. It's like shifting from one orbit to other. It requires you to know what do you need to do in that orbit. At the same time, it requires you to prepare for the next orbit. In terms of what kind of people do I need, what kind of technology do I need, what kind of segment do I need to go after. So whatever you are doing in 0 to 1 doesn't work for 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. Every phase is a new journey. So you need to identify what are the levers for the next journey and start preparing for it. And when you are reaching out, so some of these initial methods that you follow, for example, early on I said, go after the folks who are in market. So that is your second party intent data, which is coming from G2s, Gartner, so on and so forth, where people are looking for your category and coming in. But you get like 100 accounts, 50 accounts on a weekly, monthly basis, depending on what category you belong to. But what will you do beyond that? How do you scale beyond that becomes very important. That's where you need to start expanding into getting into first party data, people who are visiting your website. So then why should people visit your website? You need to build a lot of these content pieces, thought leadership that is there. So one of the pieces that we did really well, at least so far, is we have built a very strong content engine from day one. So as founders, we used to write 10 blogs every week. And this is not just random blogs, but we used to go around, understand what's the problem statement, understand what, how can we solve this one? Very unique point of view, right? So fortunately or unfortunately, in the space that we operate in, most of the companies that operate are either run by veterans in the security space or people who have been in security industry and now are getting into the startup space. So we come from a very different background. We come from non-security space, right? So we had a very different way of communicating our message. While others were talking about SD-WANs, networks, all of that, we used to talk about some electricity meter and then correlate it with security. So different communication, but fortunately it resonated with the market. So we started getting a lot of traffic to our website. So how do you harvest this data? So that becomes your first party intent data. It doesn't happen overnight. So these are like compounding engines that you need to start building from day one. Right? So day one you don't get 5 leads, 6 leads, 7 leads, but you need to create that path towards creating that. And a lot of times when we think about channels, we don't really differentiate between channels which compound versus channels which don't compound. A lot of them go in and, hey, I get $10,000 credit from Google, I'll invest in ads and then I'll try and scale it up. It never works, right? So you always focus on channels early stage, one thing which, if it is very important, it's the word compounding. Don't do anything which is not compounding. Spend your time writing blogs that compounds. Spend your time understanding jobs to be done that compounds. So don't do anything which doesn't compound. As long as you have that principle in your mind, I'm sure everything that you do will help you move from one orbit to the next orbit. And last one, trust and value are eternal compounders. Right? So as I said earlier, so if you are building X product, there are 10 other players, same interface, same product, same features. Why should customer buy your product over others? Right? I think early when I came in at 4:30, someone just told me this line where they said, hey, 5 years back, GTM was easier, building a product was difficult. Today with AI, building a product is easy, GTM is the most difficult one, right? So how in that competition, so how do you differentiate yourself? So the earlier point I made around value capture, value communication ties to building trust as well. So you need to harvest the value that you create and translate it into platforms like G2s, Capteras. You need to have people come and talk about you, rate about you, right? So keep speaking to analysts. You might not have anything from a product perspective, very little, right? So you can speak to Gartners, you can speak to Foresters. You just go to their website, you can book a slot, and then you can speak with the relevant analyst and industry. They will tell you where the market is heading. They are speaking with most of your large competitors, right? So you can do all the research that you want on the website, but they would have seen the platform, they know what these guys are building, they have written in-depth reports, and when they look at you, they know the delta, where you are bringing in that value. They'll be able to help articulate and shape your messaging really well, right? So, and over a period of time, as you start building these relationships, they will start writing about you. They will start talking about you. They will need to always publish who are the new age players who are coming in this space. You need to be in their radar. So this is something that I don't think as a community we don't do too well in terms of engaging with these players, but I think increasingly we need to start doing it. So that really helps you shape the direction. So always have a way to communicate the value that you deliver, have a way to harvest this value in terms of ratings, in terms of reviews on these platforms, because people are looking at it, right? So when there are 100 players, that's the only way that people can look at it and then have a conversation with 5 select players or 3 select players. And always speak with these guys who can help you establish this trust. A Gartner recognized, a Forester recognized. If there are 10 players, obviously 2-3 players who are recognized by them will stand out by some of these serious buyers, large buyers who are out there in the market. So trust is an eternal compounder. So even if 5 years down the line, whatever you would have done in some of these aspects will still remain, will still deliver, continue to deliver leads, opportunities for you. So these are some of the personal learnings that we had over the last 3 years, especially so because we operate in the security space and there is only one word in the security space, which is trust. So 80 to 90% of the sales happen for us via channel partners and resellers, because any company wouldn't trust a new player to step into their security environments, right? So they need that trust. So they trust a channel partner, if the partner trusts us, we get in. So trust is a very critical component, but I don't think it's just for security, right? So it is very, very important for every other category out there in the market.